Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. Today we're going to take a look at all of the work that finished in the months of January and February, according to the progress tracker. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and if you do appreciate my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. So each month I like to put together a video that takes a look at all of the work that is kicking off each month and also finishing each month, just to keep us all more informed as to what work is going on in the background. Now before we get to it, just because a feature on the progress tracker has work beginning or completing in a particular month does not necessarily mean that it will be releasing that quarter, the next quarter, or even in that year, as there could still be more work required from other teams. For example, the downstream teams like audio, visual effects and so on. Or even priorities can shift and things can get pushed back until it's needed. It is, however, a great guide to see what could potentially come to the persistent universe when, but at the very least it shows us what work is being done at what time in the year. So with that out of the way, let us take a look at all of the work that came to an end in January and February according to the progress tracker. So let's kick off with one that I have been wondering about for a while now. It is called the Graycat salvaging tool. Now you may be forgiven for thinking that this is referring to the Graycat multi-tool salvaging attachment, but this is in fact talking about a dedicated standalone salvaging tool, which is to accompany the dedicated salvaging backpack, which was already placed in game as a lootable, but maybe classed as very rare, so not many people will have found it yet. Now it's been quite a while since we checked in with all of the dedicated tools in the works, as Graycat do make quite the range, which include a mining and tractor beam tool as well, all dedicated standalone tools. And these tools are bigger and better than the multi-tool, but only capable of doing that one job. So the trade-offs being capable of maybe carrying greater weights with the tractor beam, or likely stripping more of the ship's hulls at a quicker speed, but not allowing you to change the attachment on the fly. Now this particular salvaging tool had 95 weeks work from the narrative and weapon content teams, which should have finished by now, and I really hope that all of these dedicated tools can begin to make their way into the verse, as they will add a new stepping stone into each profession, allowing players to make quite a bit more than they could with the multi-tool, but not as much as with the ships or vehicles. So great for salvaging shipwrecks by hand and actually making an income. Now this next feature is by far my favourite of this video, I think, and it is the aerodynamic control surfaces, which, as we have heard recently, have been progressing pretty well, starting with the Squadron 42 ships and then eventually making their way over to all the non-Squadron 42 ships. Now this is going to heavily affect all ships in the persistent universe when flying in atmosphere, utilising real aerodynamics and the surface of your ships to glide or turn. A great change for racing and combat, but also I just feel that once all is said and done with aerodynamics and control surfaces, just simply flying around in atmosphere will be far more of a charm, and it will be very interesting to see how every ship handles based on its own shape and size. So really cannot wait to see this come along, and hopefully we're not waiting too long. Now the next feature is a pretty significant and much needed update, and it is the MOBIGLAS rework. Now last we heard was this was also being rolled out to the Squadron 42 campaign for the military MOBIGLAS, but will of course make its way into the verse at some point later on. Now this is converting the MOBIGLAS to the UI building blocks tech, moving away from the legacy Flash tech, which allows CIG to iterate and create new apps much faster, while also improving the user experience greatly for us the players. Now one thing to bear in mind is once this conversion is complete, it will mean that they will be able to start creating many more MOBIGLAS apps for all manner of the game, like a bounty hunting app, or a cargo manifest app, or an app to monitor the economy, and much more. So this work getting complete will be a major quality of life improvement and gameplay leap to bigger, better things. And it had 55 weeks work from 5 different teams, which looked to be finished off by the UI tech team in early February. So for the next feature we have Bombs, which was initially released in Alpha 3.15 with the Hercules A2, but the work on the progress tracker continues on, with 109 weeks work from 6 different teams. Now I know CIG did say when they released Bombs that much of the work remaining to do will likely involve the UI teams, providing players with a proper bomb deployment screen, as we are yet to see this, but it does actually show on the progress tracker that the final piece of work was from the weapon content team, which could be indicative of a new bomb type, like potentially for the A1 Spirit, and maybe other options of ordnance. But until we hear more, it is just guesswork at this time. Now the next feature we have is called Pyro Space Stations. Now this says it is the process of adding small rundown rest stop stations to the Pyro system, which will provide basic services and use limited interiors. So we have seen quite a lot of B-roll of many of the upcoming space stations in the Pyro system, most of which appear to be under control by various gangs, as well as the hero space station called Ruin Station, which is also well underway. So it sounds like the work here specifically on Pyro space stations are not referring to these hero locations where the gangs control them, but more smaller rundown rest stops like what we see in Stanton, but rundown because they get much less use, providing the basic services but with limited space inside compared to the ones in Stanton. Now this did have 99 weeks work from 6 different teams, which looked to have finished mid-February, but with the sheer scale of Pyro and the size comparison to that of Stanton, having any form of infrastructure is going to be quite helpful. Now moving on to a ship, this finished its work in late February, and it is the ARGO SRV, which is the ship tractoring ship. And this we have seen somewhat making its way through the ship pipeline on various shows over the last year and current year, and it was also mentioned in the monthly report from the gameplay features team that they are investigating and performing preliminary design work for changes to ship insurance and how this will work in conjunction with ship destruction, and how towing and repairing a ship is a better choice. So it sounds like the gameplay intended for the ARGO SRV is also kicking off its development and could involve something like a service beacon where players can put out that they are in need of a pickup for them to be taken to a place to repair. So very happy to hear that the design is getting attention, as providing that support role I think would be a great career path in the verse. And hopefully once the ARGO SRV does release, that gameplay will be available. Now the SRV itself only had 45 weeks work from 2 different teams that should be done now, much of this work being streamlined thanks to the previous ARGO ships, I'm sure. So moving on, we have the Volt Fresnel, which is the new SMG from this really interesting new manufacturer called Volt, which stands for Verified Off-World Laser Technologies, and looks to have come to completion towards the latter half of February. Now this range of weapons from this manufacturer I am very excited to check out and just see what they're capable of, as their designs are definitely up my street. Hopefully we will see them in the burst now that the work is getting done, but there are other weapons from Volt that finished quite a while back, so my guess is they are holding off this range of weaponry to be introduced into Pyro for 4.0. Now the second to last feature is called Achievement Service, which although it states on the progress tracker that this is specifically for the Persistent Universe and not for Squadron 42, has work from the Squadron 42 UI team and the Game Services team. So I think that was probably a mistake and is either applicable to both or only applicable to Squadron 42 in terms of tracking your progress and achievements on a mission by mission basis throughout the single player campaign. We will have to find out more, but this had 79 weeks work which completed mid-February. And now to finish with, we have the Squadron 42 chapters 3 and 11 completing their work in February. Nothing more to really say here about this, as we don't know what these chapters involve, but of course, as always, great to see sections of Squadron 42 getting done, as it's all starting to add up to the completed single player campaign. Now, Chapter 3 had 67 weeks work from the Squadron 42 character art team and level design team 3, while Chapter 11 had 111 weeks work from 10 different teams, so great to see such a significant chapter get completed. Anyway, that was all the features that came to completion throughout January and February this year. Some real big ticket items there like the MOBIGLAS rework, aerodynamic flight, the space stations in Pyro and this ARGO SRV. Really looking forward to all of it. But with that said, if you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing. Also, come and hang out over at twitch.tv/supermacbrother. You are all more than welcome over there. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you would like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, a huge thank you to my patrons and channel members. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.